If you're anything like me and are curious about what other people's homeschools actually look like, this might be the video for you. Hi everyone, this is Iraida from Adventure and Wonder. I have a preschooler who's doing some kindergarten work and a almost 2-year-old just tagging along for the ride. I thought I would bring you guys along for a week in our life. This video might get a little long because I am going to go into detail of exactly what we're working on, showing you guys the pages, the resources, all the materials, and talking you through all the extra activities, co-ops, and just life that we do. I thought about just doing a day in the life, but really our homeschool functions more on a weekly rhythm. We don't do school every day, and we do different things every day of the week. So yesterday was Monday, and Mondays we have our co-op. And this month in our co-op, we started with a month-long science unit. And at the end of the month, they're going to have a little science fair. Bear in mind, this is all preschool. There's a few kids doing kindergarten work, but mainly little ones. So this is very basic and very just for fun and getting them excited about learning and just that socializing with one another. So yesterday's co-op class was all about matter, solid, gas, and liquid. I'll insert some little clips as I talk along. But they first saw a balloon being inflated with gas with the vinegar and baking soda trick. And that's how we talked about gas, and they saw the gas at work, and then they made oblek, I think that's called, when you mix the cornstarch and water, and that substance is a solid when you apply force to it. So when you hit it, it's hard, and when you squeeze it, it's hard, but if you pick it up, it becomes liquid. So they were all very excited about that. And they also melted ice, just grabbed ice in their hands and took it out in the sun and saw how the solid it turned back into liquid. So they're very excited and they're all little scientists. After that, we went to the library. We usually do the library on Mondays. Since we just come back from co-op, stop at the library, we turned in a whole bunch of books and picked up the books for the week. And one of the books we picked up for the week was actually a book that we were supposed to do last week, but we didn't get it in time. So today, Tuesdays we have ballet, but before ballet we actually did a little bit of school of things that we did not finish from last week. So I'll go ahead and show you that. We started the day by reading the book Jabari Jumps by Gaia Cornwall. This is part of our Blossom and Root from last week. So we read this, and then we went ahead and did the journal entry that goes along with Blossom and Roots, and we did the narration part. She told me what her favorite part of the story was, and I went ahead and wrote it down, and she drew the little picture. And then lastly, we had this little reading part, but we're not really reading yet. So what I just had her, I read her the sentence, and I had her find the words. These are all movable, so I cut all this out and I had them in the table, and she went ahead and found every word and put it in order until we made the sentence, pointing out that the first letter was a capital letter and at the end we had a little period. She was very excited to match kind of all the words. Then we still hadn't done our sound for our letter of the week from last week. We did the uppercase letter and we did the lowercase letter, but we hadn't done the sound. Our letter last week was P. So we did doodling dragons. And this was our page for this week, the P, and we went ahead and read it and listened to the little song on YouTube. And afterwards, we did the all about reading letter sound activity, and she glued the things that started with P. And then we did Ziggy. Ziggy came out. And we worked on beginning sounds for the words. So Siggy told them all these sentences and she had to tell me what letter all those words in that sentence started with. After working on the little activity with Siggy, when Siggy is about to leave, we always sing the ABCs with this wall hanging over here. And they have a little pointer. We all have a little pointer and we point at the letters as we're singing them. So we're starting to connect that name, the name of the word with how the letter looks. And that's how she's mainly just getting the name of the letters because we just do sounds, except for the singing the ABCs, we're pointing at it with Siggy.
We have some Gulf fritillary caterpillars growing on our passion vine, so we went outside to watch them for a little bit. They're always so amazed to see how much they've grown in just one day.
Now we're heading to ballet and we have a few other things that we need to do after ballet, but I'll talk to you guys about that when we get there. Just got out of ballet and I'm sitting in a drive-thru right now to get some quick lunch because we are going to our little local aquarium to take advantage of free entry day today. It is now Wednesday. When we got home yesterday from the aquarium, I went ahead and planned for this week because Wednesdays are usually our days to stay home and we just do as much schoolwork as we can get done and some housework and chores and stuff like that. Today we're going to try a French outschool class because my daughter just keeps asking to learn French and I am not prepared. So we're gonna try outschool. We've never tried it before for any class, so we're gonna see how it is. Class went well. She says she likes it, so let's see how that goes. It did lean a little older, so maybe I'll try looking for something that's a little bit more for preschoolers, but we'll see. After the outschool class, we read a book and we did some math. So I'm just going to turn it around to show you. If you hear noises, they're playing. We just had lunch and they're having a little bit of free play, so don't mind the noise. We read the book, Alma and How She Got Her Name. This is a repeat. We've read this a few times, but it's a favorite. So we read this all throughout and then we practice writing her whole name for the first time. She has her first name down pretty solidly, but this is the first time she practiced writing first name, middle name, and her 2 last names. So we practiced that after reading this, and then we went on to math, and we were talking about different shapes and the solids. So we talked about the sphere and the cube and the cylinder, and looked at this page over here, pointing out the cylinders, the cubes, spheres, triangles, and all that stuff. And then we did the first lesson in this chapter, and she went ahead and crossed out the shapes that didn't belong and pointing out what shapes were these objects right here. We also went around the house with these shapes and tried to look for objects around the house that were just like this shape, sort them into either cylinders, cubes, or spheres.
Next, we did some Spanish, working on some consonant vowel blends with our letter manipulatives. Ma, y aquí. Me. Y aquí. Ni. Y aquí. Mo. Y aquí. Pe. Pu. Pi. Ma. ¿Y acá? Po. ¿Y cuando la junto? Mapo. After lunch, we worked on our song, The Celebration of the Seasons. We did the buzz, 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 and we listened to the song. After I read it through, we listened to the song twice and kind of pointed at things and talked about it. We finished that. We did a whole bunch of feelings. And what do they mean? Today we talked about bullies and feeling intimidated and what should we do if somebody makes you feel intimidated. That is going to ask an adult for help, and what does feeling intimidated feel like? What does your body feel like? And we had a little talk about that. Afterwards, we did our I heard your feelings, and we talked about how Bear is feeling, how does Rabbit know, what could Rabbit say to Bear, and how do you know if you should leave somebody alone or if they need help. And then we also did our good manners card, and today was about what do you do if you're in a room with other people who are all being quiet, how should you speak. And we said that we speak slowly, like in places like the library or somewhere where everybody's quiet. We should also, it's good manners to also speak quietly. After that, we did our breath work from Breathe Like a Bear, and we worked on our snake breath and practice breathing like this. I find that these things, I find that these things are very helpful when we all get very frustrated. We already learned a lot of these breaths, and we use some of them to calm down. I do it myself with the kids too. So after all that book work, we needed a little book break. So we did our composer study. We're studying Vivaldi. So we talked about how not only he did music for violin that we've studied in previous weeks, but he also did a lot of music for opera singers, and we kind of reviewed what an opera singer was that we've studied before when we studied Rossini. So we talked about opera singers and that he also did music for choirs. And we went ahead and put some of his music with the choir, and we listened to that, and then we had a little dance party and took out, everybody grabbed the scarf, and we went to town dancing with the scarves to Vivaldi's music. Now they're having a little snack break, because if you have kids, you know, they eat 100 times a day, so snack break, and then we'll resume with whatever snacks for our school day. After snack, we worked on our primer series for the Explode the Code. We worked on the letter W, and I asked her like something that the apple has inside, and she said warm, or something that you pull and has 4 wheels, and the wagon.
So we worked on all these. She pointed to each one and said the name. Then they're not written because I think I've said this before, but we use the pointer. We don't write on this book since we do, I want to keep it light on the writing. So she uses this pointer to kind of do whatever the workbook says to do. But then we went ahead and said what all these words were, and if they started with a W, she would drag it there. And then she did the tracing with the little pointer. She would trace and say the w sound as she traced. After we finished this, we worked on our Blossom Root copywork. So we did the letter Y because this is our letter of the week. And we came up with some words and some names that start with the Y. And we also read the little Bob book section of the letter Y. And then we did our get set for the Learning Without Tears, the Y section as well. Let me find that. So we worked on our letter Y here. And then she first started, you can't even tell. She first started tracing here and then went and traced the ones in the bottom. Then we took out this is part of the kit that comes with that you can get with the Learning Without Tears. We did this and she pointed to the one that was the same. And then she put the wood pieces on top of here. And lastly, she put the wood pieces on the mat by herself to create the letter Y. Then we moved on to our All About Reading pre-reading. We did the zigzag zebra and read this. And she pointed out all the Y's in the story. Then we did the letter Y in the activity book. We don't do any of the things that they say. She loves to use a dot marker, so I just draw dots, and that's what she does. She just dots every letter. And then we have the uppercase and lowercase crafts. So I cut out all the little pieces, and then she finds where they go, puts them where they go, and glues them down. And then lastly, Ziggy came out and he said that he wasn't feeling good and he was sick, and he was talking about leaving out the first sounds and words, and he would say that he couldn't leap, and she said, oh no, it's sleep. So she helped him kind of get a story out because he was sick. And before Siggy came out, we did our calendar work. We talked about our day, that today was Yellow Day, that it's Wednesday, and went around and sung the little Days of the Week song. And then we counted down until today, that's the 4th, and saw that it aligned with the Yellow Day, and we said it's Wednesday, March the 4th. So that's kind of like little calendar work we do every day. Well, every day we have school. Now we're sitting outside doing our nature curriculum and talking about spring and the first signs of spring, which is the lesson this week, and all about birds. So we are coloring our own birds and talking about what sound our birds would make and about what they would be doing in spring now. It's Thursday, and Thursdays we have our nature co-op group, so we're heading there right now.
In the middle of our hike, they did a lesson in freshwater and its different states, and they got to paint with ice and with liquid colors to explore their creativity.
So it is now Friday. We have a fun day planned ahead, but in the morning we did a little bit of school, so I'll turn you around and show you what we did. We did the book of animal poetry where all the kids were eating breakfast, and we read about the octopus today, and then we saw a few videos on the TV from that. Then we came to the table and did some Go for the Code, the primer for the Explode the Code series, and we worked on identifying and writing out with a pointer the first letter of each of these. Then she went ahead and traced this, the Y. We started with the Y now in here. She traces this while making the sound of the letter. So she'll go yeah, 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 and trace it all the way, and then say the name of whatever picture is over here. And then she found all the Y's hidden in here. Hidden in there. Then we did some math, and we talked about cubes. So we showed her both of these cubes, and we talked about how it doesn't matter the size, the color, or the texture. The cube is still a cube if it has all the flat sides and the corners and all the sides the same. Then we went ahead and did the page to circle all the cubes. And then we talked about how a die that we use a lot to play different games, it's a cube, and we made our own die. So she made this, she glued it, and I wrote her all the dots, and we did this. Then we moved on to our letter of the week, which was Y. We did the little hand movement for Y and talked about the sound of Y. And then we went and did our lowercase y with our pre-reading, all about reading pre-reading program. Cut out the shapes and she glued them where they go. And in the activity book, she did the lowercase y with the little dot marker. And then I like this page because it showed the different ways to write the Y, and she found them here. So even if they're written a little bit different, she still knows that it's a Y. And we finished today with our Spanish, and we talked about antónimos. So these are antonyms, and she said she looked for the antonym of each of these. So small, inside, and tall. And it's like outside, big, and short. Now we have a birthday party to go to because homeschoolers have birthday parties in the middle of the week because we can. And then we are gonna drive a little bit of ways to go somewhere really fun. Birthday went really well. That was some good time with friends, and kids played and moms talked. And now we drove for a little bit, and we are now walking into Epcot at Disney World. It is now Sunday evening. Friday to Saturday we stayed with some family, and Saturday we also did another Disney day, and we went to Magic Kingdom, which you might have seen some clips of the castle here. And today, Sunday, we've just been catching up with some chores, and tomorrow I have to do the class for our co-op, so I've been preparing for that. We are going to do a little bit of school right now with my daughter to try to finish whatever we have left from the week. We usually take the weekend 1 or 2 days to just kind of finish whatever we didn't get to finish, because we do tend to do a lot of things out of the house during the week. So I'll show you that now. So today we started with Spanish. We were reviewing the vowels with the R and the T's and just reading the consonant vowel blends, and with these 2 consonants in the vowels. After that, we moved on to math, and today was all about positional words. So we used our animals, and we talked about what animal was in front of what animal was beside, what animal was in between, and in front or behind. We put animals inside, outside, or on a box. And we also did a tower with the number blocks and talked about the bottom, the top, and the ones that were in between. Then we went on to our textbook, and we basically did the same exercise that we had done already with our linking cubes, and just had May ask the questions, which one was on the top, which one was on the bottom, which ones were in between. And then we did this one, and they asked her to color the block that was above the picture red, in front of the picture green, behind the picture in black, and besides the picture in purple. So she went ahead and did that. Then we moved on to our This was from Torchlight, Nature's Wonders, and we talked about snakes. And this was how snakes moved, and she kind of did a demonstration of how snakes moved, crawling all around the floor. And then we went ahead and read our picture book from Torchlight from this week, was all about I don't like snakes. And then we talked about our fears, and they had her draw her fears and then make it silly. So she drew a hat and a ballerina dress, and her fear today was bears. So it was a bear with a ballerina dress and a birthday hat. And we talked about how sometimes making our fears silly make them less scary, and a lot of times learning more about our fears make them less scary. Then we went ahead and did our letter of the week, which was Y. We did the doodling dragons, and we listened to the song that goes along with it. And then this got bent. And then we did our all about reading, pre-reading, the sound activity page, and she glued the items that started with the letter Y. And to finish off, we did our artist study with Tarsila do Aramal. And we studied her painting called The Moon, and we talked about the colors and how it's a night sky and why it's called the moon. And we went ahead and created our own versions of her painting with tissue paper and crayons and a cutout of the moon. And that wraps up our week in a life. We probably still have some stuff to do tomorrow because we have one library book that didn't come in time. So we'll probably finish that tomorrow after I stop by the library and get it. But this is a pretty normal week in our homeschool life. We do a lot of things outside the house. We do school when we can get school done. But I am focusing on getting those key concepts like table school done, but most importantly on letting her be little, and my son too, and playing with friends and going out and about and field trips and exploring. So it's a little hard to balance, but I feel like we are making do. I hope this video was helpful in some way. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.